And now I give the floor to the representative of Russia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank warmly the organizers of today's meeting, His Excellency Mr. Beri Karina, the permanent representative of Kazakhstan at the UN, Mr. Kairat Umarov, and the High Representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations for the Alliance of Civilizations, Mr. Nasir Nasser, and also the other participants of this discussion. Now, today we have a unique opportunity to recall that religion is not merely a community. It's not merely a community of people and a system of values. It is also a vector of peace. Throughout history, faith moved people to noble actions and helped them resist the most difficult trials. At the basis of every one of the world religions are the principles that have stood the test of time: good neighborliness, tolerance, and equality. These principles are particularly relevant today in a period of acute destabilization in different parts of the world, in particular the Middle East. An important role in promoting peace has to be played by international and national platforms for discussion. And in this connection, we welcome plans to hold in October of this year in Astana the 6th Congress of Leaders of International and Traditional Religions. We wholeheartedly support the united efforts of the high representatives of religions to promote peace, to end violence, and to free the world from terrorism. Now, a very inspiring example of this kind of position is the address that was broadcast exactly a week ago, the address to the Security Council of the Patriarch of Moscow and all of Russia, Kirill, and Pope Francisco, in connection with the worsening situation around Syria after the aggressive missile strikes of the 14th of April. The heads of the Christian churches made an appeal, and I will quote, to have a thought about their duty toward the family of nations and overcome your differences and work together for peace around the world. End of quote. Another example of a similar unity was the joint statement of the 3 Christian patriarchs of Syria: the Antiochian Patriarch Ion X, the Yusef I Absi of the Melkite Church, and Ignati Ephraim II of the Jacobite Syrian Christian Church. Their statement was in support of the Syrian army that is courageously fighting against terrorism on the territory of their country. Mr. Chairman, behind the wisdom of religious leaders are hundreds of thousands of clergy. Their authoritative word is often the last word, the last hope for people who have found themselves in a situation of armed conflict and exposed to terrorist threats. This is precisely why the prestige of global religions around the world is so high. In the past few years, the task of maintaining international and interconfessional harmony has become increasingly relevant, also creating conditions for peaceful coexistence between representatives of various cultures, religions, and ethnic groups. One of the main threats to peace and stability continues to be the high level of religious intolerance in areas controlled by terrorists. Now, stoking hatred as a tactic to control their territory, fighters have systematically used the worst forms of persecution against religious minorities, including Christian minorities. This, of course, only aggravates an already difficult humanitarian situation. We count on the voice of religious leaders to deal with this problem. We would like to also underscore the specific role of religious leaders in educating youth as a group that's most vulnerable to extremist ideologies. Terrorist fighters are interested in recruiting new young supporters, and for this purpose they use methods of psychological pressure very skillfully. They distort traditional religious notions, and it's very difficult to guard against this phenomena without daily work of education and explanation, to disarm stereotypes about religious values, to strengthen ethical guidelines, and to provide moral support. And that is the most important mission of religious leaders. Russia is a multi-ethnic, confessional state, knows very well what a positive role religions can play on social issues. 20 years ago in Russia, an interreligious council was established that still exists and regularly discusses current issues of culture, education, expanding opportunities for youth, interreligious dialogue, and countering extremism. Furthermore, leaders of traditional religions in Russia unanimously state that extremism and terrorism cannot be based on religion, and this was reflected in the Russian state strategy of countering extremism. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, we would like to note with satisfaction that at various UN platforms, and first and foremost in the General Assembly, and also with the strong support of the Alliance of Civilizations, the topic of promoting a culture of peace, the principles of tolerance and good neighborliness is being heard with increasing conviction. We hope that today's discussion will also make a significant contribution to these efforts as well. Thank you for your attention.
I thank Representative of Russia.